I guess sometimes you need to watch the tape. I got a chance to watch the video the other day of a podcast. It was back, I can't remember if it was episode like 350 or 351 or whatever it is. We've done quite a few. Today is episode 564. So I'm excited about that, but I was watching back at the tape, which I generally don't do, and I noticed that I was boring. Like I didn't have any energy. I seemed like I was sad to be there. I can't remember exactly what episode it was, but it pushes me a little bit because when we watch the tape, when we go back and we study, I mean, I've heard this before with athletes, with all different type, and a lot of times I stay away from it. But I think that when we go back and we watch, when it's far enough, not to add too much judgment, make sure you have a ton of grace, all those things. But what it does is it actually gives you a bit of freedom because it helps you to be able to see, like, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm definitely not where I used to be. And so 5 a.m. came early this morning, earlier than it ever has. And the way I know it's 5 a.m. is when a little fluffy puppy that just got a haircut, his name is Ziggy, jumps on my head, starts licking my ear or just messing with me, and I know he needs to go out. And I thought of all the excuses in the world that could free me up from the responsibility of having to take Ziggy out. Well, I knew that my wife does it most of the time, and I do it only like once a week, but at that time I try and become free from it. And But, he kept at me, and I took him out this morning, and then I went for my walk, and I had some quiet time, and God asked me, what's blocking you from being completely free with me? You were talking about freedom. You were asking the question about being free from Ziggy this morning, being free from that responsibility, but what is blocking you from being free in a relationship with me and just allowing me to be exactly what I need to be to you? And where you're standing in the way of that. And man, it was tough to be able to answer that question. And then I took it to the word, and it was crazy because in Proverbs 27, it not only identifies the things that block us from that freedom or blocking me from that freedom, but it also gives us the solutions to be able to sustain that freedom once we gain it. So why don't we get this party started?
Achieving, cause we believing it's for certain. We put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting right before your eyes. So it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Jacking. That's what I'm doing. I took my wife's glasses again, and she's constantly looking for her glasses. Baby, if you're looking for them, watch the podcast because they're right there. I'm holding up another pair of glasses. I'm wearing one of them, but it helps a brother to be able to see. I think it was probably 43 or 45. That I woke up and I was like, man, I used to shake my head in the morning and then like my vision would clear up. But then I realized that my vision, up close was going. So hopefully I can gain freedom from glasses someday, but I don't think that's going to be anytime soon. So in the meanwhile, I'll just keep stealing my wife's glasses. I wanted to tell you guys some pretty cool stuff. I just got a text message from my buddy Roy Tuscany. If you haven't checked out the High Fives Foundation, check it out. It's incredible. It helps spinal cord injury victims to be able to experience, extreme sports. They're doing surfing. They were just down in Puerto Rico. They're doing snowboarding and skiing and all these things, getting them back to not just adapting to the things that have gone on in their life, but also just adapting and then destroying all the barriers around. Roy Tuscany, I love you. It's great to get your text messages in the morning, man. I absolutely love you. And we've also got to coming very soon. It's going to be about a week or two. Is going to be our Substack is going to be released. What we're going to be doing, I wanted to do it a little bit different. So I'm actually going to be taking in the production notes that if you're watching, you can see this, and it's got my handwriting there. So my handwriting, my pops told me early on, I was very self-conscious of it. I don't know if you guys have ever been self-conscious about anything. Probably not, because you're all perfect people. But I've been at times, a lot of them, been insecure about certain things in my life. And what I found was I was really insecure about my writing, and my pop said to me, son, it's your art. No one else does it like you. And, it's signature to who you are. And I started to fall in love with it. And some people are like, wow, did you really start to take some care and make your handwriting better? No, I just fell in love with exactly what it was. It's kind of like, when you want a six pack, you want six pack abs, or you buy a bigger shirt. I bought a bigger shirt. I just fell in love with what it was that I had, as opposed to trying to change that thing. And with the Substack, what we're actually going to be doing is releasing each time when we release on Substack, it's actually going to be a handwritten note from me to you every single day. So when you subscribe to that, it'll be amazing. I'll have the links once we get it up and going. But I'm excited about that, and just to be able to kind of share a little something and create that personal connection. So you'll be getting a handwritten note every day or every week, I believe, when we get it set up. So. But I think it goes right along with this whole theme. I was sitting in my quiet time today, and it was just all about God asking me, like, are you free? Are you free to just have a relationship with me? Are you free to do what I tell you to do? Are you free to listen? Sometimes we're bound up, and I don't know if any of you guys go through it, especially during the holiday times right now as it's coming up. We start to tense up. We start to tighten up. We have time off sometimes, or we're even working harder. But that freedom sometimes eludes us. And what God was asking me today is, are you free? Are you free to listen to me? Are you free to execute on the things that I tell you to do? Are you free just to be yourself and bring light into a situation because people need it? And a lot of times my answer is no. And in Proverbs 27, it not only identifies some of these blockages, but also offers solutions to create and sustain that freedom. So when we jump right into it here, and I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into Inchstones. If this is the first time that you're in with it, we study wisdom. We go through the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. Sometimes I have to record a proverb from a day before or anything like that if I'm traveling, because my being out doing keynote speaking for companies and corporations, bringing the vibe to them. Sometimes I'm doing that, and I don't have the ability to be able to be in the studio. But this is something that you want to take on your walk with you. And, when you get a chance to, when you take a little walk in the morning, it's 15, 20 minutes, some soul food for you. And we dive right into wisdom. And what I always want to do is filter every single bit of information or inspiration that I get. If I get a thought, I want to take it to the Word. And I want to take it to that Word and say, like, can this hold up against wisdom? If it does, then we move on and we write it down, and it works out. So in Proverbs 27, it was robust this morning. And in verse 1, it said, respect the past, reverence the future, but reside in the present. And all of these need to be there, right? So if we're looking in the past, we have the tendency to get a little bit down. We judge ourselves, and we hold ourselves to a standard or something that causes us to feel bad about something that we cannot do. So that's why I said respect the past. Just respect it. Like, if it was good, if it was bad, whatever it is, just respect it, but leave it there. Like, leave it there and move on from it. Reverence the future, right? And when we reverence the future, it just means that we say, okay, cool, it's coming. I've got hope in it. I accept it, reverence it, give it that reverence. But if we stay focused on just the future, we have the tendency to get anxiety. We have the tendency to think, oh my gosh, like all these things are going to happen. What's going to go on? And this happens during the holiday season, especially. If we stay in the past, we have the tendency to get down. If we stay in the future, we have the tendency to go, oh my gosh. So we're so far up. And what God is saying is just reside in the present, right here, right now. This is where you'll be able to be calm and be peaceful, because really this is the only thing that we'll be able to impact. It doesn't mean that not have thought of the future, have it, reverence it. It doesn't mean that you just, walk away from the past and push it down. It just means respect it, leave it there. Reverence it, know that it's coming, but reside right here. And that's in verse 1. In verse 2, 23 and 24, This is probably one of I think the most important things, whether it be in business, relationships, friendships, anything like that. And we built a multi-million-dollar company on this. And I would say this all the time to our crew is let other people sing your praises. Third-party validation is probably one of the most powerful forces in the world. And I want you to try this. I would love, this is an actionable item for you today, is just try this. Like sometimes we don't show the love that we actually feel. And there's so many businesses, there's so many people that we think are so amazing, but we never tell anyone about them. And third-party credibility seriously can change somebody's life. Let other people sing your praises, but on the flip side of it, just do the work and don't beat your chest. Do the work, don't beat your chest. Ozzie Newsome talked about it in a documentary when he scored his first touchdown. He's one of the greatest tight ends to ever play the game. He went into the end zone and he just spiked it really, really hard. And his mentor came to him and said, "Hey, I don't want to ever see you do that again." And he said, what are you talking about? I was celebrating. And he said, "Act like you're going to be there again." And he said it really impressed on him a thought that as opposed to saying like, "Here, I'm going to celebrate every single second of this and I'm going to show everyone how great I am," stay calm and walk away from it like, this isn't the only time that's going to happen. And then people start to sing your praises. When people start to sing your praises, like people find greatness. They discover masters. You don't have to beat your chest. And I tell you, if you try this on social media, you try this in anywhere, it freaks people out. Just get excited about other people and the other things that they're doing and celebrate them. But do it for the right reasons. Do it because it's in your heart, not because you're trying to get something from it, because then you'll get disappointed because they probably won't share your stuff, and that's okay. So in verse 3, 4, 18, 19, 21, and 22, and I want to let you know if something is said a couple, like in multiple verses, most of the time it's because it is, I think it's very important. It says, "Stay rooted in wisdom so silliness cannot provoke you." Have you guys ever been provoked by silliness? Have you ever had somebody poke you? And it's the stupidest thing. "I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to touch you. I'm not touching you." Have you guys ever had this? I remember my brother used to do it to me growing up. He would provoke me. He knew he could get me. I remember he used to just stare at me after a horror film. I remember him doing this one time, and we were on Vandenberg Air Force Base, and he was just like, we watched a horror film. I shouldn't have watched it. I don't like scary movies anyway. But we went into the kitchen, and he just looked at me. And he just stared real big. And I was like, "Stop that, stop that, stop that." I started getting mad at him. And then he just kept doing it. And I remember I took out a fork and stuck it in his arm. And it was so stupid. I got provoked by silliness. But imagine this. If you stay rooted in wisdom, like if you stay rooted in the truth, you'll see a lie from a mile away, right? And so, Rob, I love you. Sorry for sticking a fork in your arm. It was silly. I just wasn't rooted in wisdom. I let silliness provoke me. You were being silly by staring at me, so don't stare at me anymore. Man, I'll get out that fork. In verse 5, 6, 9, 10, and 17 is show the love you feel. Someone needs it. Show the love that you feel. I got love from my brother yesterday. I just got love from Wayne Freeman. He just reached out to me, texted me, and sent me a little message. And he said that he loved some of the production notes. And he said this. I'm going to read his text message. This is amazing. "Love this, very timely. Been thinking a lot about how easily it is to get pulled into the struggles of the business, especially over the last few years. Waking up to the idea of F that. I'm still young and smart, and this is a chance to go back on offense." I tell you, show the love you feel. Like, Wayne, I love you. Wayne, you have been an inspiration to me. Wayne, you are an inspiration to so many people. And in what you're doing and how you're doing it and how you're going about it, you do business the way that most people never, ever do. And I want to tell you, you do it from your heart in every single conversation that we've had, whether it been in the light or in the dark. You've always wanted people to do the best, and that is just admirable. And I just want to tell you how much I love you, and I think that you're amazing. So, guys, show the love that you feel. Someone needs it today. I needed it yesterday. My brother gave me a text message that just lit me on fire. It was the whole emphasis of our men's group. If you haven't got a chance to be to our men's group, 7:30, Carlsbad, from 7:30 to 8:30, everyone's invited. There's no admission to it. Just come as you are. It is unreal. And I tell you, it's amazing. There's some magic goes on there. In verse 7 and 12, slow down long enough to enjoy and speed up to avoid your ego. Right? So this one hit me. This one was hard for me because slow down long enough to enjoy it. I don't do that. And then speed up to avoid your ego. I don't do that either. So I invite you, if you truly want to have freedom in your life, you want to have that freedom to just be. And when you are free, watch this. People ask me this all the time. They're like, I walk into a place, they're like, wow, what you bring a vibe, or your vibe is good, or whatever. And the reason why is because when you rely on God, you're free, you're light, because he's doing all the work. It's not me that's doing it. Now, when someone says like, I didn't say that, God did. No, I'm not saying that part, because God would say it a lot better than I do. I'll mess it up. But what I'm saying is when you walk in free and light, I got to do this at the Absolute Motivation conference this last week right outside of Nashville, Tennessee. It's at the Keystone Resort, and it was amazing. William, your place is phenomenal. And I was a keynote speaker there, and people were like, oh man, I felt good when you got done. The reason why you feel good is because I'm free. Like I'm free. I'm not carrying anything I shouldn't be carrying. And when I walked in, I had just asked God, just bring the message that you want. And what it was about is making friends, and the power of being able to make friends, because then you don't have to do anything except just be yourself. And so slow down long enough to enjoy it, speed up to avoid your ego. And I tell you, that one is right for me. So it's just showering down on me in both of those. In verse 8, work your land. You hear this a lot in Proverbs, but I want to sit in this for a second. Every time that you work your land becomes more valuable. Every time that you go out and try and work somebody else's land, it generally doesn't work out. It's futile. And I find this all the time. I'll see somebody, I'm like, man, I want to do that. Man, I want to do that. Man, I want to do that. And I'm just like squirrel and all over the place. And when I'm locked in to doing what my land is, and what my land is doing this podcast and keynote speaking. That's it. That's what I do. Now, obviously, like I'm a father and I'm a husband and I'm a friend. But as far as in a profession, podcasting, keynote speaking, boom, work those lands, they become fertile. And it's amazing what can happen. So what is your land? To figure out what your land is, just identify your gifts, go give them to the world, and you'll find that land. And that land, once you work it, it'll become so fertile, it'll be ridiculous, and you'll bless so many people. In verse 11, wisdom brings joy. Wisdom brings joy, right? And so wisdom is the right use of knowledge. That'll bring joy, which is the art of falling in love with your current circumstances and allowing magic to happen. Joy is not happiness. Happiness is circumstantial. Joy is falling in love with your current circumstances, not changing them, just fall in love with exactly where they're at. And the way that we could do that, what brings that joy, is wisdom, the right use of knowledge. And where do we get that wisdom? From the fear of God. The fear of God is just the respect of God. Spend time with them, see his word, see his action, put him in line, and then you will respect him. That means that's the interchangeable word for fear in this context that it's written. So if I fear or respect God, I'll get wisdom. That wisdom will bring joy, which is the art of falling in love with my current circumstances and allowing magic to happen. In verse 13 and 20, debt blurs your character. Ooh. I had to sit in that one for a second. And I even had to take a breath for a second, because every single time that I've had debt in my life, whether it was personal, professional, spiritual, or financial debt, it blurred my character. I started to think about, okay, well, if it was financial and I was in debt, what could I do to get out of this thing the quickest possible? I had this monkey on my back. I had debt in business. I've had so many challenges that way. But I tell you, if you want to truly walk free, get rid of your debt personally, professionally, spiritually, and financially, because that will blur your character. In verse 14, know your audience and understand timing. I think one of the biggest examples of this was Tony Hinchcliffe when he did the rally at Madison Square Garden. Now, he's a funny comedian, but he didn't know his audience. Well, I mean, you could argue this. I don't believe that he understood the audience at the time. And then the timing, he understood his timing. His timing was there, but he didn't understand the audience. But if you understand your audience, or if you know your audience and you understand your timing, it is unbelievable. And make sure that when you're trying to bring blessing to someone, you understand the audience that you're bringing it to, and you understand the timing. So know the audience, understand the timing. And what I've learned over time is on YouTube, probably people are the nastiest that I've ever seen in my life. Like, I get some of the craziest comments. I don't get those on Instagram. I don't get those on TikTok. I don't get those on Facebook. I don't get them on LinkedIn. I get encouraging messages, but on YouTube, it's crazy because I'll get some things, but I got to know my audience. I got to understand, and I'm learning that. But so I just say, appreciate you as they go. So in verse 15 and 16, keep your house in order. This is probably one of the most important things that I see is, people will become very successful in business, but their family's in shambles. And then I always tell them, just watch out because you're going to have to make twice as much. They're like, why? Because you're going to have to support this family, and then you're going to have to work twice as hard. So you were making $1 million a year or $500,000 a year. Now you're going to have to make $1 million or $2 million a year to be able to sustain both. So just keep your family in order, and it'll cause you to not have to work as hard. So make sure and do that. And as we finish up today, and Jimmy Barbour, I want to thank you. It's a minute and a half over 20 minutes, which you told me to keep it at. But I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank your family for listening. Your dad's a genius, and he's an incredible human. As we finish up in verse 25 through 27, watch this. Diligence, hard work, patience, grace, and joy will lead to blessing. Let me say it again. Diligence, which is right work. Hard work. Okay, so if you find out what the right work is, and then you just work hard at that, you have patience and realize that it's not going to come overnight. You have grace with yourself and forgive yourself every single time you mess up. And when you mess up, it just becomes the next rule that you write down, because our procedures are nothing more than a list of our screw-ups. And then have joy, fall in love with your current circumstance, and allowing magic to happen. All of that combined will lead to blessing, because it'll give you freedom. See, he wants us to walk free in his love and his grace. This way we can bring the light of our gifts that he has provided into others' lives. He not only desires this, but gives us a plan on how to execute this freedom. If you're not feeling free in an area today, I want you to go back and I want you to read through, or I want you to listen to this again, and then I want you to read Proverbs 27. And in Proverbs 27, it'll give you the blueprint on how to be able to get free when you go through. Like I was telling you, the production notes and the handwritten note is going to be available on Substack. We're going to be doing that as when we release it. It's going to be in about a week or two. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Inchstones, and be sure to check out too. I want to thank my wife Brooklyn for producing the episode. She is absolutely phenomenal. And honestly, if you have a wedding that you're doing, she is the greatest in the hairdressing world at taking care of you for your wedding. It's the best decision and best investment that you'll make in your wedding is having her do your hair, because honestly, she's not only the best technically, but also she is one of the most calming presence that you'll ever have on your special day. And I want to thank you guys. If you didn't get a chance to watch the episode yesterday with Cassie Pike, I would do it. This woman is a high-level executive, and she shows how to be able to wear all the different hats: the mom, the wife, the friend, and the high-level executive that's on a global scale. I would check that out. But I want to thank you guys again for tuning into the podcast, for subscribing, which I think that you should on all platforms, commenting, and sharing it with all your friends. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your survive.